my soliloquy. It's in Act 1, Scene 6. Shall sun that morrow see, your face, my thane, is as a book where men may read strange matters. To beguile the time, look like the time. Bear welcome in your eye, your hand, your tongue. Look like the innocent flower, but be the serpent under it. He that's coming must be provided for, and you shall put this night's great business into my dispatch, which shall to all our nights and days to come give solely sovereign sway and masterdom. This 12-line soliloquy from the rising action of the play is the main contribution to the development of Lady Macbeth and Macbeth's relationship. With profuse studying of Act 1, Scene 6 prose, it produces the same results that Lady Macbeth's own bitterness and animosity was what drove them to kill the king. The entire prose sets us the introduction to the Macbeth's kill of the king. Though Macbeth was originally against the idea of killing the king, this passage right here shows her pulling him into the plot through Lady Macbeth's cunning persuasion. The cunningness directed from Lady Macbeth's side of the plot is primarily shown through her insulting his manhood and his pride. A scheme followed through by her instructing him on how to behave, and that his face is as a book where men may read strange things, also meaning that his face is as easy to read as a book. Instead of becoming angry and spiteful, a common illusion comes up that is repeated throughout Lady Macbeth's passage, and it is a reference to the Garden of Eden. Though this sin was acted out of ignorance and naivete, the similarities between Eve and Lady Macbeth are shown through their persuasion of their husbands. Though ignorant, Eve was the one who persuaded Adam to eat the fruit in the first place, and was what essentially got them forbidden from the Garden of Eden. This is similar to how Lady Macbeth persuaded Macbeth. Though it wasn't ignorance, it was completely on purpose. She was the one who convinced him to join her murder in join her plot of killing the king. The first line in Lady Macbeth's passage shows a certain ironic feel directed from the wording. She mentions the sun when referring to the coming murder. When thinking of the word sun, you would normally think of light or brightness or happiness, but she refers to it with murder, which you would think of as dark and with death and blood. This shows irony in the wording, and it continues on when she repeats the image of time. Morrow is a word she uses when describing how Duncan would never see the light of day. And this image paints a picture of the future. So throughout the entire passage, she talks about time when referring to the future and what's going to happen. Lady Macbeth is very much the power player in this passage and this portion of the play, though it changes later when Macbeth steps up and becomes the power player instead. Basically, Lady Macbeth and Macbeth switch their roles of man and woman in a relationship, and she becomes the one telling him what to do and directing him on how to act. The apostrophe of time is directly referred to as she tries to tell him about how to deceive the king. She says, to beguile or to deceive the king, they had to look like the king. The direct quote is, to beguile the king, to beguile the time, you have to look like the time. So the time may be referring to the king and his party or society as a whole. The metaphor of the next line compares an innocent flower with a sinful serpent, pointing at Macbeth's incompetence to hide his feelings, reversing their roles again. She tells him that by looking like the innocent flower, but being the serpent under it, he would appear harmless. This is another direct allusion to the Garden of Eden, where Satan pays Eve a visit disguised as a serpent. Except this time, they would be Satan in disguise, and Duncan would be the one to suffer. The role reversing between Lady Macbeth and Macbeth in this passage is once again illustrated when the knight's great business was put into Lady Macbeth's dispatch. The Elizabethan language is shown through the word dispatch, which means to kill efficiently. So the verbal irony stems from providing for the king. It is shown through the double meaning behind it. So providing for might mean by their hostess jobs. So they have to provide for the king, and that they have to welcome him into their house, but they also have to provide for him because she's planning to murder him, and they have to prepare for that. Time is now paired with sole sovereign, also meaning the absolute power of the king. The Lady Macbeth shows her selfishness in wanting sole power by convincing him to come over by saying that they would have sole sovereign or also absolute power. This is the final way that she manages to convince Macbeth over to her side of the plot. Lady Macbeth's bitterness and animosity sets the stage for the remainder of the play, because this bitterness was what drove her to kill the king and essentially led to their downfall.